Welcome to Own the Season podcast. We will talk to industry insiders along with outdoor enthusiasts to help you own your season. Now let's join hosts Art and Michelle Helen with Brad Jones. Own the Season podcast is brought to you by The Hunter's Vault. Cool, protect, and age your harvest with great results. Full size, but yet portable. The Hunter's Vault. Find out more at thehuntersvault.com.
Hello and welcome to Own the Season podcast. I'm Michelle Helen along with Art Helen and Brad Jones today. And, well, turkey season is, I'm going to say, finally over. I mean, Art's looking at me. I mean, we love our turkey hunting, but it does get to be plenty long. And I think we're ready to move on to new things. You know, I think part of it's too that Wisconsin moved the season a week back later. So it gets feeling like we should be doing summer stuff, you know, moving on to other things when turkey season is still lingering.
Yeah.
Art's sad that's gone on.
I do agree. Now it's fishing season and somewhat, relaxation season for me. But I've got a boatload of blinds coming in tomorrow that, because I sell the 360 hard side blinds. And so I've got 21 of those coming in tomorrow, and I got to get those out the door. But I would really rather not have that. Plus, Brad, you are extremely busy right now at work, for the company you're working for, other than the editing and stuff for us.
Right.
And
it's about showtime season for us.
And it is. So, I'm trying to take a little bit of that load off of you because you're so busy and trying to, get a lot more stuff organized this year and hopefully some smaller edits and some things like that done. Plus, obviously social media and trying to get, going out and doing, social media shoots and trying to get content. And, that's what I did all morning this morning. And then tomorrow I got blinds where personally, now that turkey season is over, I would rather just be sitting in my boat up north and not worrying about any of this stuff. Unfortunately, sitting in a boat on a lake does not pay the bills. But
hopefully we can, do that on weekends, and hopefully you can get a lot of your other stuff done during the week. I know one thing, since you've been doing the hunting and TV show related things full time, is you are, out there, doing our food plot stuff and cameras and like that type of stuff, out during the day, take a break away from the computer and editing and going out there. So what types of stuff have you been focusing on out in the woods?
Well, yeah, I mean, and part of that all comes back to, it has to be done, which is nice that I don't have to do it completely on the weekends. But now because I've, turned this into a job, now food plots and stuff have become part of a job because it's not only having to worry about planting and tilling, doing all the stuff. Now it comes down to I have to produce content while I'm out there too. So
yeah, but besides that,
so you're doing that
double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, it's the double-edged sword. But yeah, now that turkey season is over and thankfully it actually went pretty well this year, and we killed a lot of birds very fast, which allowed me to get out and, still do a little bit of, the planting and the food plot work. And, now that that's done and the fertilizing was done and the overseeding, now we're into that part of the year that, we have to spray, we have to mow, we have to, maintain trails.
So mowing, a lot of mowing. Yeah.
Right.
And weed control is going to be fun this year too, because that's about all it's going to grow because we haven't had rain in a while.
Yeah. Did you see we were fixing to have
drought?
Yeah, and we were good up until May. I don't know what the drought conditions. I haven't seen that map, but I did see that May was looking to be a record-breaking low amount of rainfall across at least southern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That was the map. That was.
They say
were
we're
talking.
still not in
Definitely.
drought area overall. And last night, believe it or not, out at the cabin, because I was out there today doing some, getting content and doing some work out there. I checked the gauge out there, and we had 1/4 inch of rain last night. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so
Every little bit's gonna help.
I-
But yeah,
I
you're
will
right,
take that.
Brad. It's the weeds will be something to contend with if things do get dry here for a bit.
Yeah, and hopefully not. They might, but they're talking a lot of rain this weekend. They're talking Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
good.
Monday, 4 days straight, pretty good rain. And
Then you'll have to mow again.
yeah, the long range forecast is actually, looking like a little bit wetter for this month than normal. And the weed control is something, but right now my food plots look fabulous. So hopefully, that'll maintain. And that's it. Brad, you did a lot of food plot work, and you really got into that over the years. And kind of take us through, now that we're into everything's fertilized, everything's growing, a little bit of that maintenance, of what you look for going into summer and how to maintain those depending on what you have planted.
Sure. Weed control. I mean, any weeds that you have coming in right now, you really need to get down and look at your food plot, because you want to get your first cutting before these things head and seed out, because all they're going to do is just multiply then. So, once that, like your clovers, once they get up to around that 3-4 inches, if you can see weeds coming in, I would cut. So just less amount of weed control then that we have to do with sprays, because nobody likes to spend extra money to spray them when you can take care of most of them with mowing. Because on the big picture is we're not trying to produce tonnage. I mean, we want great food plots, but we're not trying to provide tonnage, so you can have some weeds. But more you can kill by mowing, cheaper it is, and I think the better off your plots are. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now, would be weeds starting to creep into your food plots.
Yeah, and I agree. And this year I actually did spray. I've been trying to stay ahead of it, and I got a little behind. So this year, like, okay, I gotta catch up again. And so I did go in and spray for grasses and dandelions and some broadleaves, and mix those. And like you said, expensive. I mean, I went in and I bought that stuff, and I'm like, how much did you say that was? And I'm like, I'm looking at 2 acres, and you're like 300 and some bucks. I'm like, you out of your freaking mind? And but it's not that I do that all the time, because like you said, we're trying to clip and do as much as we can. The big weed that we all have to look for coming up, especially if it starts drying out right now, the end of June, you're going to get into July, and then all of a sudden, I'm guessing probably, we'll clip here in the next, week or two again. Especially I'm waiting for the rain. And if it rains, then I'll get out and clip. And then we should be good for a little bit. However, we have that one nasty, miserable weed that's going to show up, that end of June, first part of July. And then you have to make a decision. Are you going to try to spray that? Are you going to clip it? Are you going to be able to stay ahead of it? And that's that infamous smartweed.
Yeah.
And
It's still super hard to kill. I know I fought it for years on 2 different plots, and finally I just gave up, and I actually turned that into a more CRP ground, because I just couldn't control it. It was crazy.
yeah. So, I mean, you look at that, and sometimes what you have to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but sometimes, that's why you rotate too, is, you've got beans and corn. This year I don't have beans, corn, or sorghum in where I did last year. I'm rotating that in. I've got a new mix called Cold Brew from Rack Fuel that I'm going to be trying to put in here,
Nice.
in the end of July. And I will have a few other things mixed in there. But this year I'm really concentrated on, because I want to get ahead of those weeds. And so instead of tilling all the time, this year I put a lot of, clover, alfalfa, and chicory mixes in to try to get that substantial growth in there, to shade those weeds out and kill those weeds off before they can really take root.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that smart weed is definitely one that throws just a ton of seed too. I mean, once they start to head out, you just see that purple everywhere.
oh, yeah, it's
Kind of pretty.
yeah, it's pretty, but look at I mean, that deer I killed a couple years ago now, Lefty.
It's a beautiful video.
I mean, he's standing in the middle of a
Yeah.
smartweed field, and we took a lot of, I took a lot of grief for that, and a lot of people like, oh, your food plot. But the
deer were there.
There was still so much other food source in there around that smartweed that it didn't matter.
The proof is in the pudding there.
But you have to control it, or you're going to lose that field altogether.
Yeah.
So
I've been using, the last few times that I've tried to fight it, I've been spraying it with IMOX, and that seemed to knock it down pretty good. But it's like a 14-day period before it even looks like it's doing anything, So you're like freaking out. Wow, did I just waste, $200 and nothing's happening? And I found that IMOX works the best in that stuff.
that's where I was. I used for this year Volunteer, and I'm trying to think of what the other one was that I put in. Was it Clef? No, Butarac maybe.
Okay.
And mix them together to take care of both of those. And same thing, you use Volunteer for grass, and you're like, you look at it 10 days later, and you're like, man, do I need to respray this?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you come back 4 or 5 days later, and it's all yellow and dying.
Exactly.
So
Patience. Yeah. But then it's where it really gets expensive if you think you need to reapply, to like all of those selective, sprays are expensive. And then if you're applying them more heavily than needed, then you're multiplying that even more.
right, or you're applying them when not needed or at the wrong time.
Yeah, that too. Sure.
Then you're killing things that you shouldn't be killing, and so yeah. But right now, I mean, that's a big thing that people need to look at is maintenance through the summer. Maintain your trails, maintain your food plots coming into the fall season, because we've started. The other big thing, there's quite a few big things to do, but if you're on the maintenance train and trying to do that, is a lot of people wait too long, or they're too late when they go out and start trimming shooting lanes and start their mock scrapes, different things. And right now it's a great time of year that you should be out there and, hanging your tree stands, or if not hanging your tree stands, you should be checking your tree stands.
Yeah, I think both,
More importantly.
or both, right? We also just, took down the blinds that we're not going to be using, put away the turkey hunting things, see what, needs repair, what's still in good condition, and then, start looking at your fall setups. Walk me through, and definitely check the tree stands, because we have found those to, shift as the tree grows. We have found dry rot straps, ratchet straps, which has been quite scary. So we have, we've found that on checking them. I don't think we were hunting them. We were checking them. So you definitely want to get all those things identified and fixed and hang your new stands. Tell me a little bit more about cutting your shooting lanes now. It seems to me like you're just going to have to do it again later anyways. So I'm not, explain to me the value or necessity of doing that this early. Like, I know you don't want to be doing it, in there making a lot of noise and throwing a lot of scent around, the day before season opens or, a couple days before, but, aren't we just going to have to do it again later as things grow?
For me, if I'm doing a big trim, I want to do it as early in the year as possible, so the less disruption to the deer, and then do fine trimming as we get closer to the season, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think especially for those new stands, right? Because you're going to have to probably do big trim with those where you're looking at like chainsaws and dropping trees,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I always say I try to get everything done, tree stand maintenance, shooting lanes, as much as I possibly can. I want to get done before the third week of July. Mm-hmm. And the reason I want to do that is because that is, you've heard me probably say it before on podcasts, or if you've been to my seminars, that is when bucks are moving back to their home range and they're starting to move out of their bachelor groups, the end of July, the first part of August. So if that's a mature deer that's coming back to his home range and now all of a sudden you're in there disrupting that deer, they will not put up with that. Young deer will. Mature deer won't. And they're going to walk away or they're going to move to a different area of the farm. And so I want to have all that stuff done. And like Brad said, all my big trims, if I need to do stuff with a chainsaw or, take big branches down, things like that, I want to do that now. And then, you might get in that week before bow season or whatever. Or let's say you're there 2 weeks prior to bow season, and it's the last time you're doing something with a food plot or whatever, and you're in that area. That would be the time to go in, check that, and do one more quick sweep. And, with today's tools, battery operated stuff, you get these little trimmers now that you can trim 1.5 inch thick branch. I mean, it's just one pull of the trigger and you don't hear anything, and it's click and it's gone. The branch is out of the way. So there's so many new things that, help. You're not running a big chainsaw or these big pole saws because everything's so quiet and battery operated chainsaws now. And they help because you're not getting the scent, you're not doing things. And not that chainsaws really bother them, because they don't. It's more of the human scent and people, going in there and doing things. So if you can get in there a couple weeks prior, I really like to do it when it's raining out. That last cut, if it's raining and kind of miserable, as long as I don't have to climb ladders and stuff and be dangerous to myself in the rain. But sometimes that works really well because it's knocking down the scent, it's knocking down your noise, everything else, and I'm not going to melt. I mean, I understand I'm extremely sweet and everything, but I'm not. I'm not going to melt.
Where's that laughing sound effect button? Or wah, wah, wah.
So,
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
remember, too, this is a great time of year to get that squeak out of that stand that drove you crazy all last fall. Mental note to self, fix that, and you forgot. Now is the time to do that.
How do you fix those squeaks?
Yep. And I have one right now that I need to get out and fix that. But that's going to be my project here over the next couple weeks, is start putting some new stands together, some new elevated stuff to get out and get those put out here within the next 2 weeks. But definitely needed, I know that I'm going to have some dry rot on some stands. They're not on the stands themselves, but, on the straps. So I'll be taking new straps out. Definitely, be hooking into the lifeline. And I learned that lesson a few years ago. we actually were checking a stand, and it was me and Michelle and our friend Eric. And I went up to check this stand, and I was hooked into the lifeline, thankfully. And I got up there, and I'm like, yeah, it seemed like things might have been a little loose. So I went to crank the ratchet strap one more time, and it was dry rot, and it snapped, busted.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting, 16 feet in the air.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, you hunt enough and, you're going to have things happen. But then we had to kind of leave him hanging and like Dee Dee Mau Mau down the, all the way down with the Ranger, all the way down that driveway and up the road to our own driveway and go up and, grab some, new ratchet straps or enough ratchet straps and then, run back with the Ranger and like kind of afraid what we were going to find when we got back to you,
So here I am, kneeling on the stand as I'm checking that, or kneeling on the thing. Well, then when it breaks, what do I get to do? I mean, I've got a lifeline on, but I don't really want to hang 16 feet in the air, right?
It's not healthy to hang
That's not healthy either. So I'm like leaning into the tree and hugging this tree, and they're like, "We're going to go get you another ratchet strap." I'm like, huh? I mean, they couldn't really do anything else, but I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, thanks, and what the,
hang in there, buddy.
Yeah, no pun intended, right? Hang in there, we'll be back. Yeah. And
right.
so, yeah, you need to check those things and always, have somebody with you or let them know your location.
Yeah, that buddy system, whether they're there in person is ideal, but at minimum that somebody knows where you're going to be and, a plan for when you're going to check in so they know when to worry and come looking for you if they don't hear from you. We do that when we're cutting trees too and with our neighbor, just so we know when someone's out there and when to, go and check on them.
Yeah, and part of that is... everybody's like, well, I have a cell phone, so I can just, call 911 and they can ping it. Well, you don't always have cell reception, or if you have your cell phone and you fall and you get knocked out, or you drop that phone and you can't get to it because you break your leg or something. It's always good to have that backup plan that if I'm not at a certain place or I don't check in by whatever, please, somebody come check on me because I'm doing something stupid today.
Even just hunting,
tree,
it's
right?
good to have somebody know where you are anytime you're out in the woods doing something.
Oh, definitely.
The other thing besides food plot maintenance, primarily like keeping up on the mowing and the weed control. We talked about shooting lanes. We've talked about putting up stands and trees, checking stands. The other thing that you're continuing to do because you leave our trail cameras up year round is, doing checking and maintaining trail cameras and batteries. What's the frequency on that? Like now that turkey season's over, so you're not using them to scout for turkeys. What do you do through the summer when it comes to your trail cameras?
Well, life has gotten a lot easier because of cell cameras, solar packs, and now a lot of them don't even have SD cards in them. So for myself, because, I'm running all stealth and muddy, I have, like the Deceptors. I like the Deceptor camera, a great camera, and the 360, Muddy 180, and all of them pretty much are the same. They're now, because I run a solar pack on them. I mean, I don't have to go in there. It can be a year before I even have to worry about that solar pack, because that solar pack, I've had some of them out over a year that are still fully charged. And so I just run those. And so the frequency isn't very often. If I've got something really cool, and then when I'm out mowing, or the other thing right now that I'm doing, if you have water sources and not just food plots, but if you have, your water holes for deer or even small ponds, right now I'm doing a lot of maintenance to those. I'm putting in a lot of the EH defense and maintaining those ponds, trying to make those, so that it's healthy water and good water for deer. And so when I'm in there doing that stuff, then I'll check. I'll bring a laptop along and I'm like, oh, there's a really cool picture in here that I want. And then I'll get that picture off of there if I need it in a bigger file than what I get, on my computer and sent to me. So they really, there isn't a whole lot of maintenance to them anymore. Sometimes if all of a sudden they start triggering a lot, that can be a couple things. One, there could be something in front of it that you have to go knock down, or
Or
ants.
full of ants.
Yep, I was just going to say full of ants. Ants
Yeah.
will make them trigger a lot. So yeah, there's just, it's not like it used to be where every couple weeks you're out there having to pull cards because you didn't want to run out of memory. Now, with that said, I do a lot of double sets on just about everything I have. So I will put in my cell camera that is a picture image only. And then what I do is I will take, and I really like, the Stealth G-Max 32, and I run that. That's a non-cellular, and I run that camera a lot because it has 1080 HD video, and it also has audio. So I put that with all my cell cameras. I'll put 2 cameras on a tree, and people are like, what are you doing? Well, one of them is for the picture. The other is I get the audio and I get a video. So I'll run like 20-second videos. You'd be amazed at what you catch on a video that you don't catch in a picture. And the audio, sometimes with bucks chasing does, or in the spring with the turkeys, we've got bobcats calling, it's just, it brings a whole new thing. So those are every 2 to 3 weeks. I have to go pull the cards out of those, because they eat up a lot of memory as video. So we're doing a lot of that. And like I said, a lot of pond maintenance right now also. There's a million things that we can be doing that you say are off season, but deer are never off season.
Yeah, right. Art, let's step back a minute. Are you putting mock scrapes in and putting cameras on mock scrapes right now too?
I am. I've actually started freshening those up back in May. I've got a few new ones that I checked on some cameras. I was looking on cameras the other day, and they're broken. A couple reasons that they're broken. One, they've been there since last year, so they've got really dry and brittle. And right now, if you have community scrapes, these deer are actually hitting these mock scrapes a lot right now, these community scrapes. People miss the boat. I could post picture after picture after picture of bucks on these scrapes right now, does on these scrapes. But what they're doing is they're not taking their antlers because of the velvet. And so what they're doing is they're just kind of rubbing their forehead glands, or they're using the glands out of their mouth, and they're chewing on them. They're using them as licking branches, chewing branches. So they nibble on them. Well, what happens is when they nibble and they start pulling on them, because they're so brittle, they break. Mm-hmm. So I've found a bunch of those, over the last week. I've been watching them, and now all of a sudden they're starting to break. So that is one thing that I do need to get out probably later this week. I might wait until next week, until right after it rains, but I do use all synthetic stuff, so it's not a big deal. It's going to last 30 days anyway. And that's where people make a huge mistake right now, is they go out and they put that branch in. The best thing to do is, like Scrape Fix has a couple different things that you can put out that are just a natural deer scent, that are a velvet scent, they call it, or, the forehead gland scent. That is what you want to be putting on those branches right now. As far as the urine, and this is where people make a big mistake, is they just say, oh, this is for a scrape, right? They walk into Walmart or Farm and Fleet or Fleet Farms or wherever, Cabela's, and instead of looking for something that's made specifically for these, like Scrape Fix, what they do then is they go in and they buy the stuff that's used during the rut, doe and estrus, buck rut, lure, dominant buck, and they go and they spray that stuff all over the scrape. It's not going to work. You're going to end up spooking those deer more than anything because it's the wrong time of year, and they understand that. So use more of just a straight, doe urine or a buck urine or a non-rut on the ground. A lot of times I won't put anything on the ground. When you go in and just freshen that up, especially if it's a community scrape that's been established, take in a rake that area up, get it all good and the dirt nice and loose, and then take that branch, and that licking branch is where you want to put the scent, and then just leave it. And those deer will come in and they'll hit that branch and they'll pee on there and they'll get the natural scents going instead of you putting something in there that shouldn't be in there.
Right.
And now is a great time.
Let them do the work for you.
Right. And now is a great time because you get to watch these bucks grow. I mean, other than those community scrapes, I want to be, if I'm running cameras, I want to be on water sources right now. Food plots are great, but man, these deer on these water sources, I'm telling you, I run more images on those right now than anywhere. It gets warm. And the other thing is this is when those deer, during antler growth time, during the fawns trying to get healthy, the mother that just fawn, she's trying to get healthy too, or stay healthy. They need water, and they need as much as they can get, and they need good, healthy water. So if you were doing it and putting, like I said, the EH defense is not only to help prevent EHD, but it's also to make your water healthy and put in the right bacterias. And, it's got a lot of different things in there. It's got a muck system that actually breaks down some of the muck that's in these ponds. It's bad and bad bacterias. And so it'll bring this in and, it'll give good quality water, which then just is that much better for all these animals, for their antler growth, for the health of the deer. And they're going to spend a lot more time in there. And you'd be amazed at all the different animals if you put those cameras on there. Right now I'm getting bobcats, coyotes, wood ducks, owls, turkeys, deer. Had a bear in the other night, which in southern Wisconsin, that's, you don't get to see that cool every day. Yeah, that's pretty cool. No.
Yeah.
They're here. We've seen them on and off for 15 years. But it's, it's not like it's a consistent thing like up north. So when we see one, we're like, hey, that's kind of cool.
Right.
So, it's really looking at the maintenance of the entire property going into summer, because summer gets busy for everybody. But if you do this through June and you have all that stuff done, then, you can kind of take July off. Because there's not a lot happening out there in July. And that's the problem, is most people start ramping up in July and thinking, man, I got to be out there in August and September, and you're hurting more than what you're helping.
Yeah. The only thing you should be thinking about in July is what you're going to plant for a fall food plot. And that doesn't occur until, mid to late August.
Well, I'll be honest, buddy. In July, I'm thinking a lot about walleyes and muskies. Thinking, man, August comes around and things start cooling down the end of August, September. man, we're gonna get into some good fishing. So that's kind of my brain kind of switches to that. But this year in July, all my brain's gonna think about is heading to Africa, since we're heading there at the end of July. And
it's going to be here before you know it, isn't it?
it's crazy. And that's another thing is, shooting and, maintaining that muscle and stuff right now is, again, people don't think about that. And even with crossbows have become so big, and, there's such a big crossbow fight and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm torn on different aspects of it, but I'm like, you know what? It's legal. So as long as it's legal, it's support it and do what you have to do. But one of the big things that is frustrating to me, because one of my best friends owns an archery shop here in town, and he's one of the best bow technicians and crossbow technicians that is around. The guy is absolutely incredible. And I have talked to him, and we've gone over different things with crossbows, and he says the biggest problem is with crossbows is people think that they can just leave it in their closet, and every year they can pull that thing out and it's going to be exactly the same. Well, he says, think about this. He says, when you take your bow out, he said, you shoot it 100 times. He said, is it the same? And I said, absolutely not, because you're going to have a little bit of string stretch or maybe a cable stretch that now one of your yokes is a little bit longer than the other yoke, depending on what's stretching. So now that throws your bow out of tune, right? So that's why you want to shoot in the summer with, your bows, is because as you shoot, things will change, and it's not necessarily you. And so then you have to get it retuned, and you would rather be doing that, in June and July, first part of August, than worrying about that, come the week before bow season, because I see it every year. Every year Jeff and I sit there, and man, I tell you what, we would have people, and I'll be 100% honest, we would have so many people hating us in the background because it's the same thing every year. And Jeff and I call each other, and I'll say, well, how many do you have today? The week before season. He says, Art, I could be at my shop until 3:00 in the morning every night, because everybody is waiting till the week before bow season to pull their bows out of the closet. And they went outside and they shot, and they found out that a string stretched, or their string broke, or it dried out, or something is wrong with it, and now they need it fixed so they can start bow hunting. Well, I have a ton of issues with that, and that gives a lot of us bow hunters a bad name. I sorry if you guys are going to hate on me for that, but it's the truth, right?
Well, it's not only like, your bow might not get done in time, right? Because, your Jeff is pretty accommodating, but not every shop is going to care and necessarily going to want to, stay into the wee hours of the morning. I mean, they're making money, but they got their own stuff to do too. But the other thing is, sometimes parts or accessories, they can't get them in time.
Right.
So supply chain issues, so that's another reason to really be thinking ahead.
Even strings and cables.
Mm-hmm.
A bow shop can go through a lot of those in a hurry a couple weeks before season.
Yep.
Like when Art says people are starting to think about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And back to that crossbow. A crossbow, same thing. They have strings, they have cables on them. Those strings and cables are going to stretch, okay? Especially when you're looking at them at 150-pound draw, 400 feet, 500 feet per second. Well, what happens is if that bow comes out of tune in one of those yoke stretches or the string stretches, and now you might have changed your feet per second a little bit, but that makes a difference, at 30 yards, 40 yards. If you have a yoke that's out, what's going to happen is when those limbs go or those wheels turn, now they're out of time. And so because they're out of time, you're going to put pressure on one side or the other as that arrow runs down that track, right? So when it comes out, now if you have, instead of running true down the track, you have pressure wrong. That pressure then makes that arrow fly goofy, and then you end up shooting it in the butt. The same thing with a regular guy shooting a bow, that his bow is way out of tune because he hasn't taken his time. So you need to be out there practicing and pay attention to what's going on. Yes, things can happen, and it can be in tune and whatever, and you can still shoot one in the butt. Nobody wants to do that, okay?
No.
But a lot of times it happens because we haven't taken the time to maintain our equipment and get out and shoot properly. And when I go to Africa in July, I am going over there to basically hunt a Cape buffalo with my bow. I do not need my bow to be out of time because I do not need to shoot a Cape buffalo in the butt. All right.
No.
They don't call them Black Death for a reason, right? Or for nothing, because there is a reason they call them Black Death in the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I have been a month into my diet. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to get my back in shape so that I can pull the weight that I need and stuff, but that I know that if something goes wrong and I do hit it in the butt, that I know I can outrun Michelle.
I'm not going to be with you forget.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and I probably will not outrun the PH or Joe because Joe is pretty,
You might have to rethink. Yeah, I think you stick with the strategy of making a good shot.
Yes, yeah. I like that strategy. So, and so it's all about the equipment and trying to shoot every day so that muscle memory is there. And that's the other thing, is it's all about muscle memory and trying to build that strength where if you just go out 2 weeks before season and start shooting, that muscle memory isn't there. And so your release might be off. You might punch the trigger wrong. There's something. So it's body maintenance, it's shooting maintenance, it's bow maintenance. There's so much maintenance to be done now at this time of year. Again, food plot maintenance, tree stand maintenance, your shooting lanes, there's bow maintenance, body maintenance, there's a million things. And so don't overlook them. Get out and everybody's busy, but try to take, one day or whatever and say, hey, this day, this week, I have to get out there. But even if you're only shooting 20 arrows a day, 15 arrows a day, you know what? It's not a lot, but it helps that muscle memory.
Yeah, for me, it's the thought of like getting everything ready for the first time. Like, the targets are not set up, and then I gotta make sure I've got my Allen wrench, I got my tools, get everything kind of gathered together. And like the first time out, it's like a mini production, right? But then if you keep everything, kind of together and by the door, or, in one spot, then you can go out and it's like 10 minutes, right? Just shooting 10, 15 minutes. That's easy. That's easy to do.
And for you, I mean, you just got your new bow.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, you don't even have it sighted in yet. You just got it back from Jeff.
Yep.
Jeff just got everything set up. He got it tuned.
Caleb did.
Well, Caleb
He's the man
did,
now.
yes.
Yep.
And you did your thing, and so now it's a matter of getting it sighted in and then starting to shoot. And we're talking a lot about bows and all this other stuff, but today I went out and I shot a handgun for a while. And it's the same thing there. It's that shooting rifles, shooting handguns.
Yeah, it took you a while before you hit anything.
It did. And that's it. And she's not lying. Because it's all about, that maintenance. It's if you want to call it, if you want to call it memory, that's more of shooting a gun isn't a lot of muscle maintenance because or muscle memory. It's more of your mental
Yep.
of, breathe, relax, slack,
doing everything
slack,
right.
squeeze.
Yep.
Right. And it's that
all the little techniques,
consistency,
things,
of doing it. And if you do that now, this fall, it makes it easy, and it makes it easy when that big deer walks out. And so don't put it off. Start doing it now, because there's so much you can do. And if you wait till the last minute, your food plots are going to go to hell, or you're going to fall out of your tree stand, and that's not going to be a good thing. And, so just take the time. I know we're all busy. Everybody's, oh my God, I got all this to do and everything else, but we're all busy. And
and this stuff's just gonna, like you said, it's just gonna pile up or be a bigger problem later if you don't deal with it now. Yep. And to pay off in the long run, to take time now to stay on top of things, or practice and do maintenance, right? Then it doesn't become a big project. It's just maintenance, routine maintenance, right?
Right. And
it just makes for a much more pleasant fall when you've prepared all summer long with shooting and prepping the field and everything else.
Right. Pleasant and ultimately, hopefully leading to, success, right?
Yeah. And I hate to say it, and because we all are extremely busy, but we all have a half hour to shoot, or we all have a half hour to do something. We choose to do something else and not prioritize it. We, choose to watch TV for an extra half hour, or we choose to, there's always something. And if that's your priority, then you do that. But then don't complain in the fall when that big deer isn't there, or your shooting lane isn't done, or you go to draw your bow and you can't draw it because you don't have, the muscles to do it anymore, or you don't have that muscle memory and you squeeze the trigger and you shoot 3 feet over its back. Or the same with a rifle, and say, well, I didn't have time to shoot it this year, but it was on last year. And, don't complain about it because you prioritize something else. Everything's about priorities. And if your priority is, hunting, and you want to enjoy it, take that extra little bit of time each week and get things done and do them right, so that you can enjoy it in the fall and do what you love to do.
Right. What is that saying? Failure to plan is planning to fail, I think, is one way to say that. And I think it's really, and I think too, when I listen to you talk, is that, people hear, and we hear, and we hear other, people say, well, it must be nice to, get a deer every year. It must be nice to get a turkey right away every spring. It must be nice, or, lucky, right? You're lucky. But, and, there's always a little bit of luck. We can't, the animals are wild. We can't predict exactly where they're going to go. We can't control what the animals are going to do. But really, there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes into hunting and fishing and all these activities to be consistently successful, or have some relative consistency to success. It's preparation and planning, and that little bit of luck. But I think people kind of forget that there's really a lot that goes into these things year round that we're doing, right?
Well, and it's no different. I mean, you look at it, and you look at statistics. There's 10% of hunters throughout the nation that consistently kill big deer, and consistently kill deer, or are on deer. They might not even kill them, but they're consistently on mature deer. And, as you said, people, must be nice, or it's because you have your own property, or because you have this.
Yeah,
or,
I could too if I had land. Yeah.
And I get, tired of listening to that crap, but I just ignore most of it now. It's why is there only 10% of the nation professional athletes? Well, you think about that. Those guys, they were born, yes, some of them were born gifted and good.
There's natural ability.
Right, the natural ability. Just like some hunters have different natural abilities. But then it's everything they do after that.
Mm-hmm.
That professional athlete did not sit and say, it must be nice. Or, man, if, I didn't do this, or they'd prepare. Just like I said earlier, deer season is 24/7, 365. It's no different than a professional athlete. They work 24/7, 365. They're always in the gym. They're always practicing. They're always doing something to
better themselves and
from
prepare.
Middle school to wherever they are. It's no different as these guys that are, very good and successful at hunting. They're always trying to figure that edge out. And today, I sat and looked at my Spartan Forge maps going, man, and I'm looking at my notes from last fall going, I should probably put a tree stand here this year. Mm-hmm. Because of what I noticed last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And other people may not do that. And so it's you're always trying to learn something. You're always trying to better yourself, but you're also doing the maintenance. That's, and you're doing that all year. You're studying these things. It's just like turkeys. Why are we successful turkey hunting? Man, when it's turkey season, I live and breathe turkeys. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I love that. And so I am constantly, every night in a vehicle, if I'm not hunting, trying to figure out where they are. I'm constantly looking at my cameras. I'm glassing areas. I'm talking to landowners. I'm trying to figure this out. What time of day are they there? Where are they roosting? How are they changing? What kind of pressure are the neighbors putting on them? It's no different than deer. What kind of pressure are the neighbors doing? Where are the neighbors hunting? How are they blocking you? How can, if they're blocking you on this, then why are you hunting there? Move and go somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah, if you can't control what they're doing, you have to change what you're doing. Yeah.
And now is the time to make that change.
Yeah.
It's not in September. It's not October, November. It's right now. Now is when you're out there making that change, changing those tree stands, putting in your new food plots or water sources, putting in your shooting lanes, getting that stuff done now.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right, let's recap. So as we head into summer months here, the things I think we've talked about have been food plot maintenance, particularly staying on top of the weeds and weed control. We talked about cutting shooting lanes, especially the big cut, major cut stuff that's going to be very noisy and invasive to the deer. Setting new tree stands, checking and maintaining existing tree stands, doing all of those things safely with your being tied in with your safety harnesses. Starting mock scrapes. It's a good time to be doing that here as we head into early July. What else? Check your trail cameras while you're out there. A lot of people aren't doing them quite as much over the summer, but if you're going to be out there anyways, that's a good time. So you're not making an extra trip to check your stands. And then we talked about checking your equipment, getting your archery equipment out, your hunting equipment out, practicing shooting to build up your back and arm strength and your muscle memory and your habits, your shooting habits, and then getting your equipment checked or serviced with a technician if needed, and doing that earlier rather than later, not waiting until the last minute to make sure that you have it in time, right? Anything else? Any other main topics we talked about?
No, I think you hit them all.
Yeah, all right. All right.
So.
Boy, that's a lot of information.
No wonder we're all so busy. Oh, yeah. We
Right?
shared a lot of information. So get on out there and get into your summer maintenance groove and own the season.
Follow Own the Season Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening.
Check back weekly for new episodes.